Hi, this is Phil Isaacson, and on our Tuesday night special edition here, we have an interview with Prescilla Una,
Hey Phil, thanks
musician
for having me. Hearts from Toronto, Canada, and the world. How
from
are you?
Canada, yes. And she is a guitarist, a singer, even plays the flute, and she was classically trained. And we are lucky enough to have her with us tonight. Why? Because she has a debut of her song, Better Place Than Heaven, coming from her new album. And why don't you tell us about your album, Priscilla?
Yeah, so basically it's called Enlighten. It's taken over 6 years to compile all the pieces together. I've traveled to London, England, at Abbey Road Studios. I went to Sao Paulo, Brazil to record, all over Ontario, Canada. And remote working, I've worked with producers and engineers from Germany, from Malta, from Uruguay, from Bahamas. So it's truly an international world eclectic music album, but with a Canadian perspective.
Uh, that is fantastic. And did
Thank
you
you.
find you had stretches over the 6 years where you thought, okay, maybe this would be better off as a single album instead of three, where it just sort of grew on its own and it just evolved to what your final project turned out to be?
Yeah, I have a few friends in the industry, one of them being Chris Burkett. And Chris Burkett has recorded, people like Sinead O'Connor. You know that song like Nothing Compares to You? So like we're
Sure,
like buddy
absolutely
we're
on the
friends
cover
here
of
in the
the
city.
Prince song, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's worked with Prince, yeah. So then he's like, he has an English accent, right? So it's like, Priscilla, it's like best to like do singles now because the singles kind of wild, right? And then I'm like, no, I'm an artist. I'm gonna do an album. So I have done the singles for this album. So I released 4 singles and 2 remixes. But I thought like an album is more like artistic and it's more like an artwork, an art piece instead of just a singles. So that's why I decided to do my second album. And I took a break off kind of being the leader in the independent music scene here in the city
Sure.
to really focus on production and getting the right people for this project. So I'm so happy it's out and I can breathe and I'm just working on getting the music out because it's just like a weight off my shoulders.
Well, that's fantastic because as you know, it hasn't been easy for everyone this particular year, and especially for people in the entertainment industry and musicians who definitely rely upon having their audiences see them live,
Yeah.
or to be able to make public appearances, meet and greets, and so forth. And
It's true, it's true.
especially,
But at the same time, like I've really taken advantage of this year because
uh,
if I didn't have this year with the whole COVID situation, it could have taken 7 or 8 years. So I'm
wow,
happy that this year I really
dedicated, and you just
compiled
focused
everything.
and got
Yeah,
things
I really just
driven.
focused in on getting the pieces together, number one. And number two, I had more time to spend with my family and friends, whether it be remotely or whatnot. But I mean, without not being able to work, I mean, I just worked a lot from home. I got creative in that sense. So I actually just took advantage of kind of the dark situation. I made it bright.
Wow, yeah,
So
well, but that's a great way to take advantage of the situation. You know,
yeah.
in there, that's pretty much a project if there is one. So,
Yeah, and basically like the title is called Enlightened. And back 5, 6 years ago when I thought about this title, I never thought that the state of the world would be as it is today, right? So I just thought about that because like enlightenment is like a higher feeling than love. So I thought to myself, okay, I want the vibe and the sound and the just the energy to have that feeling of enlightenment. And I feel the world right now needs this album. So I'm so happy to release it and share it with everybody.
and
And I hope that it has like healing with everybody right now too.
wow, that's great. We're very happy to share your album and songs and so forth on our station and such. And this is going to be a wonderful experience for all of us here, I'm sure. And one of the things I got to ask you though is, as far as, since you have the remixes in the middle disc, right? I mean, people play. That's the thing when you have 3 discs, different discs. Some people say, "Oh, I really love the remixes," and that's all they play.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not like, okay, something like a rock opera or a concept album where, okay, you have to play these songs in order and you must play them the way the artist intended. Here it's more of at least a collection of your work for this 6-year period, and putting it together and letting everybody see various different sides of your writing styles and your performances and so on.
Well, I organize there's 3 discs. So disc 1 is the originals with 11 songs. Disc 2 is the remixes, as you had made mention. And disc 3 is the karaoke instrumentals. So there's a reason for that order, just like how there's like the rock opera you're mentioning. So it's like that. And with the 11 songs, I mean, there is a progression kind of state to them. So the first song on the album is called Start Good. And if you hear that song, the original song, the first like 1 minute is like the sound of like the waterfalls, right? So it sounds like raindrops. So it basically represents like the cleansing of energy and the cleansing of the world to start good, because the song is called Start Good. And in the middle of that song, there's a Catholic prayer called Our Father. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that because you're Jewish, but I know most of my Jewish friends are familiar with that Catholic prayer.
Well, I think there was some type of song in the 1970s that made the regular charts. I forgot who the artist was. It was, I believe she was a nun or something that did the prayer or something. I forgot the singer at the moment. It skips me, but I remember, I think it was like in the late 1970s. I think it was a chart topper. I don't know if it necessarily hit #1, but so you get exposed to it. That's the way.
Yeah. So basically, the reason why that was the first song was because, you know, it just represents like from all the past trauma that I've gone through in my life, you know, being like a drug addict and having like 3 fiancés that brought me to the wrong path, and all these harsh things I went through in my life, and then starting a fresh kind of path without all the negativity in my life. So I just and again, like representing to what's happening now, it's kind of like a reboot. 2020, like in society and everything, there's such a huge shift. I know in Toronto, I know everywhere else too. So it's just starting good and just refreshing all the negativity and starting in the fresh leaf. So the other songs, the last song on the album is called Brazil. And even though I was born and raised in Toronto, Canada, most people from Canada are from different places in the world, everywhere. We have all types of different nationalities here, but my roots are Brazilian Italian. So I call that song Brazil because it represents like my roots, and it's actually like a samba bossa nova mix with my own kind of flair. And I recorded that song there, and I thought, well, you know, if I'm gonna do bossa nova like samba, I have to go to Sao Paulo to do that. So I have a team there, and it's really authentic and it's really cool. So there's a progression, there's reasoning to the order for sure. There's always reason to my order for the compilation and the strategic album kind of place.
Because the order also tends to give an album a sense of fluidness about it. Just flows and songs seem seamlessly go into one another and so forth. So yes, that's another strategic thing that you artists must do besides write the songs. I mean, obviously you have arrangers and other things that say when you have a certain producer who's more hands-on than some others, and there's other producers that just let the artists sort of do their things and they just oversee that it all comes together. So,
yeah, I produce like all my songs, and I do have like engineers who co-produce with me, but like I'm the head of my projects. I mean, I'm the boss, and I make sure that's done. It's my songs, that's done my way, and I already have ideas and images in my head. So when I work with a team, I expect them to kind of make the idea bigger and better, but I already have like a foundation.
speaking of the fact that you mentioned that you have a production company, Peaceful Revolution Music, right? Mm-hmm. And are you like overseeing that as a more of a hands-on, or is it more that you have other artists that have joined you that have similar ideas musically to be able to be part of what you do with that company?
So originally I brought that up as my own music label, Peaceful Revolution Music, just because I wanted to be independent in the scene, because I honestly couldn't find like a major label to pick me up. So I said, well, if somebody else doesn't support me, I'm going to support myself. So there's a lot of artists, independent artists I know do that they just do their own thing. So kind of my idea with that was once I stabilize myself as a professional independent artist to help other artists in the future with production and with the administrative side of the back end stuff with the music, with metadata and all those type of boring stuff that most people don't do, but I do like everything from A to Z literally. So
So have there been any artists that have sort of called upon you to say, look, I'm doing this project, we'd love to have you come and produce and oversee this? Or is it more like they're similar to your own label where, okay, you've gathered a bunch of artists up that you see reflect your vision and maybe are sort of that ideal fit? Has it happened both ways, or has it been more so that, okay, I like this artist, I've seen them in concert, I want you as part of my team, so to speak? So how is that sort of going for you to this point?
it all depends like on number one, the accessibility, and number two, like if they agree to work with me, right? So because I've like contacted a lot of people, but some people don't contact back or they're just too busy, right? So
That's the way it is
yeah,
on the side of things too.
yeah,
I
or they
get
have
it.
other
So
priorities.
I'm very
Exactly.
glad that we got together here and we're able to do these events, because it brings attention to not only your music, but to what we do here at Friendly Smile Frenzy Network as well.
Yeah, so the first person who asked me to co-produce with him was an artist in Bahamas called Nova. And what happened was that I was friends with his acoustic buddy who was wanting to record in Canada. So he had stayed over my house back in like 2013.
Mhm.
And he had connected me with his buddy there. And he's like, yeah, you should hear his songs. His beats are really good. And I heard one of his songs because he only did instrumental. And I ended up grabbing one of his tracks, which I use in my song Catch. So that Catch is in this album right now. It took like 7 years to create that song. It took a while because I wanted to get it just right, because hip hop is not my main genre, but I love hip hop. So I said, I'm going to give it a
Great
go.
catch on our
But
side.
it just released like last year on this album. So then what I did was I ended up doing some guitar work for one of his songs. So it was kind of like a back and forth, like a mutual respect. Like I like your work, you like my work. Okay, let's kind of uh, produce on each other's albums. Another artist who had asked me during this time when I was producing my remixes was Sanjo Perez in Uruguay. And he was like, oh my gosh, like I love like us collaborating like on your songs, and like you're like, I just love your ideas, and you're very organized and you have great ideas. So he's like, well, I want to put you on another artist because he's well connected in South America. And I said, sure. So that was like again another mutual respect kind of thing. And then the last one, which was Chris Burkett. For the past few years, I've been like literally harassing him, and I said, "Chris, I want to work with you. I love your work and I love your personality." And like he just got to Toronto just about 8-9 years ago. Just when I started my career, that's when he moved here.
Mhm.
And finally this year, he said, "Okay, I'm gonna have a studio somewhere like in Ontario. It's brand new. I'm shipping all my stuff from like France to like to Toronto because he used to have a Chateau studio back in Paris, France." And he's like, "Yeah, like we'll have to work together because like he's a bit older. He's quite older than me, and I'm young. So that's not a good or bad thing. The whole point is that like, I have young, fresh ideas with contemporary kind of visions, and he has a more like um, dated approach. So we put those ideas together and you create magic. So I'm so excited. Next year, 2021 is going to be really exciting. I'm so excited
I sure hope it will
to
be
help
for
other
you.
artists going up. Yeah, so
Okay,
excited.
just a couple more questions here before we want to get you to maybe play a song for us. But
Mhm.
one of the things that I always just wonder with, I want to get to interview people and stuff, is like, is there any artist, musician that's would be sort of on your bucket list to be able to either work with or let's say do a duet with or co-write a
Yeah,
song?
yeah, yeah. So many. I mean, I've always had a dream of collaborating with Deadmau5. So Deadmau5 is a DJ producer from Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Okay.
And he just came out with a song a few days ago with Kaisa, another Canadian artist, called Bridge by a Lightweight. And I was like, wow, like each song like he makes, it just takes me away. So it would be a dream for me to work with Zimmerman. Another dream would be to like work with Lana Del Rey. She's like amazing. I love her music. I love her flair, her sexiness, her Bob Dylan approach of writing. It's really, really cool. For bands, like I love like U2 and Coldplay. Like I think they're amazing. Gwen Stefani, I think she's like really hot, and she has a really funky edge too. So there are so many. I mean, the list goes on and on. I don't. There's so many.
Well, maybe one of these days you'll do like Ray Charles did as his last album. He had the album Genius Loves Company, where he did all duets of his songs with various artists or songs that he enjoyed from the artist. And it was like a way, unfortunately, he died around that time, but it was a nice send off, if you will. And that shouldn't be your send off by any means, but something, a project, maybe perhaps a couple years down the road to get maybe some other Canadian artists that you enjoy and collaborate and put something together. But, you know, album number 3, right? Something, or 4 or 5.
Yeah, you never know. I have no idea. I have no idea what the future holds. I don't know. I'm just flowing.
Many of us do after this year.
Just flowing. Yeah.
And what we'd like now is maybe if you'd kindly play a song for us, if you have one in mind. And that
Yeah. So since we're talking about Better Place Than Heaven, I guess I should play that.
Sure.
So I'll play that. Okay. Every time he looks at me, I can tell that this is real. Every time he looks at me, he just knows how I feel. Every time he talks to me, I don't know what to believe. All the time he will find, he has always blown my mind. You take me to the place, baby. You take me to a better place. Every time he sings to me, we head back to our own space. And every time he says my name, magic seems to fill my loneliness. You take me to a better place, baby. You take me to a better place in heaven, than heaven, yeah, yeah. You take me to a better place, baby. You take me to a better place. Thank you. Better place than heaven.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you too. You felt that.
it was quite impressive. And I'm
You're
hoping
catching the feels over the internet.
a huge success for you.
Thanks.
And well, you mentioned earlier that I guess you have two daughters. I believe one is 12 and the other 14, right?
Right.
You mentioned that. Are they musically inclined like you, or they haven't gotten the bug yet to?
My older one plays a saxophone like you.
Oh,
So I'm
well,
just
okay,
pretty
so maybe you go for a band or something. You'll have your older daughter play when she's ready to perform in public, and
She's
maybe,
really shy. I don't think that's ever gonna happen. She's more like a behind the scenes type of person.
okay,
My little one,
yeah.
she's like already producing, like engineering producing since she was 8 years old. So little
They
Sophie,
learn early and stuff.
yeah.
Alleviate some of your
I
burdens
mean, I
later
don't
on.
know
You
if
know,
they want to do that or not, but
your producer or something.
yeah.
You'll just sit back and do your music or something. Right?
Exactly. It'll be like a family like project in a few years, in a decade or so, most likely. We'll see what happens. But you know, nowadays you have to be multifaceted, right? Like I was actually talking to my daughter about this. She's like, "Oh, what do you want? What should I do when I grow up?" And I said, "You're gonna do a lot because you have to do a lot to survive."
That's true.
So you can't do one thing. You can't do two things. You have to do many things, right? So.
Right. A musician has to be very patient, not only in learning their craft, but in today's day and age, getting the music out there and getting and building the audience and so forth and everything. And that's the one thing you have to sort of convey to both of your daughters there. That's like patience will get you a lot farther. That's all, because even if it doesn't necessarily improve your career opportunities, you'll be a little less stressed out. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the way to look at it.
Yeah, that's good advice. I'll make sure they watch this later.
Okay.
Do you have any kids yourself? I actually never asked you.
No, you have never asked me about, well, with my musician playing?
No, do you have kids yourself? Or?
Oh, yes. My son is just turned 29,
Oh,
and he and his wife are
nice.
married a little over 5 years. They have two lovely children, a boy 3.5, and a girl slightly more.
You're a grandfather. I'm so excited to be a
I
grandparent.
know. I said,
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be that one that spoils them so much.
yeah. Hey, it's okay. It seems to be a little bit easier on the grandparent side than when you had to raise your kid. You know,
Exactly.
like you got at least a little experience. Plus, you could sit back and say, "We'll see. This time, I think we'll let them learn on their own." You know, or otherwise, like, well, I better jump in and put my 2 cents in to make sure that things go a little smoother than are going right now. You know,
Exactly.
but it also is hard with the pandemic, because my extended family of my son, daughter-in-law, and the two kids, they only live not too far away from us, but far enough away that they're not next door. So they're still in the same city, in the same area, but they're not, let's say, in our backyard, so to speak. Only when they come to our backyard are they in the backyard. But you know, you, as opposed to when your kids live at home with you and everything like that, and they're always around, it's getting used to, you know. The so-called, as they like to refer to here, as the empty nest syndrome, right? So a lot of things are now for two, but I look at it this way: it's a time to reacquaint myself with my wonderful wife. That's I do know you. I've been married to you for 3 years. Wow, you know, like that.
If I was married, I'd probably kill my husband or something.
Oh well, that's the thing that I was always
Like I
thinking
can't.
about,
It's
you
hard
know.
for me to stay home all the time. Basically, I need to do other things. So
Yeah.
let's see.
I always
All
joke
the time,
with
it's
my
driving me
wife.
crazy.
I said, yeah, one of the reasons I married you is because I figured if one of my former girlfriends or something like that, if I had married them by now, they probably would have killed me. But you know, hey, that's all. You know, hey. So I guess when you find the right
Well, you know,
person,
pre-COVID, I mean, I would definitely invite like a mate. But yeah, I've been focusing on my kids right now. So
okay. So is there anything else that you would love to tell our wonderful audience before we will eventually head over to the radio side and debut your song, Better Place Than Heaven?
yeah, so you can check everything out like on iTunes, Spotify, my website, prescillamusic.com. So PRESCILLA music.com. And at some point, I'll be doing like a live concert. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it because I'd rather do it like on a live stage, but I have to see like what's possible here in Toronto. But for sure, I'll be doing like an event for my songs. I'm so excited to like rock out and like dance and have fun.
Yeah, because I've actually attended some of these live streams where the artist was just performing, let's say, in a small theater or bar with either just their band or themselves and no audience members, and just stream. One of the ones that I did most recently was Suzanne Vega. She did it at, I believe, at the Blue Note in Manhattan, and she did like a greatest hits set, but she also did a cover of Lou Reed's Take a Walk on the Wild Side, because the whole idea of this concert that she did was a thing called New York Songs. And that's, I guess, her latest album and everything like that. It's a collection of some of her other material plus a few new songs and such. And that was one of them. Also, another big New York artist in the local scene is Don DeLego. He's been a producer for a lot of indie artists also, and he's been a friend of mine for a good number of years. And one of the other ones I saw was, if you're familiar with Pete Yorn, he did a different one. He did it out of his house, where he did a whole acoustic version of his second album. He also did his first album the same way. And he just recently did one, I think on the 21st or so of November, he did like a greatest hits, but by request. In other words, he had the audience select songs and he did them and brought some out of mothballs and so on. So
I'm looking at my phone. I actually just got invited to do a live on Thursday, December 17 at 9 p.m. Eastern specific time. That's Toronto time. So there we go. That's
there you go. You heard it here.
Yeah,
Fans and friends, you heard it that Prescilla is planning then to do a live show on December 17th. And I'm sure there'll be more details.
Most likely it'll be like acoustic, but like I'm looking to do another one like where I'm like dancing and stuff, but I'll have to dance. So
well, that's an amazing thing now with technology. You could basically sample a whole band and just perform. I think I've seen two shows like that. Specifically, a number of years ago, Todd Rundgren did a New Year's Eve show where he did everything on his Mac. And all he did is play guitar, but he had a full orchestra and all this stuff on the Mac, and there was video screens and everything like that, and about like a 300-seat venue, and it was fantastic. It was a New Year's Eve show. And
nice.
I also know that on occasion, Neil Young has performed that way, where basically it's just piano and acoustic guitar, but he's had tape loops and so on going to play like the rhythm sections and the percussion and stuff to give it a more fuller sound. And I think even in small dosages, I think I've seen James Taylor, like when he's usually gets close to like an intermission on a set, he'll just play an acoustic guitar and have the violins and piano and stuff on in the background through a tape loop. So
yeah, those are all really good ideas, Phil. I think I might, depending on the situation here, I may do like the backtracks because I do have like instrumentals, right? So I could just like sing over them and dance. I'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Thanks.
Oh, I hope it works out, and I look forward to it. I have to mark my calendar. So it was December 17th, 9 p.m. Eastern, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so with that in mind, we're going to wrap things up here. So everyone can jump to the Friendly Smile Frenzy Network and listen to an hour-long version of our weekly show, Girls Night Out, in a condensed form. Normally it's 2 hours on Sunday night. And leading off with Prescilla Una and her debut of Better Place Than Heaven. And if maybe there's a few other surprises in that set, but you'll have to tune in to find out. So we will post the link to the radio station here, and you can go there. But if you just are one to be a listener, it would just be iradiousa.com and then look for the affiliate stations. And we are the affiliate station listed in the dropdown. You'll see Friendly Smile Frenzy Network will be a picture of my wife and I in our studio. You click on that and we'll take you right to the station. So thank you very much for joining us this evening, Prescilla, and we look forward to great success and hearing even more music from your new album, and especially those songs that rise up the charts and even a couple deep tracks here and there that particular audiences find amazing. So thank you. We're very glad for you to join us. Please do not be a stranger, and if you got other projects and stuff, feel free to ask and we shall make sure that we accommodate you and get you on the air again. Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
having
much.
me. And remember, indie is the new pop.
Indie is the new pop. That's
Yes.
the way we have to see it. Okay. So everybody, make sure you tune in to Friendly Smile Frenzy Network, and also you go to YouTube and you check out Prescilla's video. But first, listen to the show first, because we want to make sure that you hear every sound and nuance, and sometimes visual is just a little bit of a distraction. So make sure afterward, no problem. But okay, so we're going to end things here. Thank you very much, Prescilla, and see you on the radio side.
Bye.
Bye.
Stay safe, everybody.
Okay.